Yesterday you discussed the difference between weather and climate. In your discussion you learned that weather and climate are not the same thing. In fact, you learned that climate is the average weather over many years. Today we are going to go into more detail from what you did yesterday over the 5 types of climate. The first type of climate we will be talking about is the tropical climate type. Tropical climate consists of 2 different types: tropical wet climate and tropical wet and dry climate. A tropical wet climate contains year-round rainfall. Vegetation in this climate, as a result of the rain, is a rainforest, a tropical rainforest. The other type of tropical climate type is tropical wet and dry. In the tropical wet and dry climate type, it contains 2 seasons in a year, a rainy season and a dry season. This climate supports grasslands and trees. You can see an image below that shows the Nile River Valley area. The area around the Nile River is very dry for much of the year during its dry season. However, during its rainy season, the Nile River floods, which provides the opportunity for grassland and other grass types to grow. The next climate type we'll talk about is the dry climate type. The dry climate type can also be called arid. Arid means little or no rain. In the dry climate areas around the world, there tends to be very hot summers and relatively mild winters. These dry climate areas get very little rain. Because they have very little rain, very little vegetation is able to grow. The only plants that can grow in these areas are plants that need very little water to survive. Now what I would like you to do is talk with your group or with your partners about some different examples of plants that need very little water to survive. So go ahead and pause the video while you do that, and when you're done, go ahead and hit play to continue. The next climate type we'll talk about is the temperate marine climate type. Temperate marine climate type can be found in the middle of the earth, in the area around the equator. There are 3 types of a temperate marine climate, which are all relatively similar. The first type of a temperate marine climate is the Mediterranean. This sees typically less rain, and when rain falls, it tends to fall during the winter. Our second type of temperate marine climate is the marine west coast. In a marine west coast climate, we see lots of rain. And lastly, the humid subtropical climate type sees lots of rain, and most of that rain falls in the winter. Our next climate type for today is the temperate continental. The temperate continental climate type sees summer temperatures that are moderate to hot, depending on the location. These winters can be very cold. They can sometimes be mild, but again, they can be very cold. And this climate would typically support grasslands and forest. So you can see some images below showing both grasslands in the middle of summer, as well as colder areas as well in this temperate continental climate type. The last climate type we'll talk about here today is the polar climate type. In the polar climate type, they see cold all year round. What they do have for a summer is very short and would be cool compared to most other climate or compared to all other climate types. The polar climate type finally has a very long and very cold winter, and as a result of this long cold season, little to no vegetation is able to grow in these areas.